Angenieux lenses are incredible, incredible cinema lenses. These things are built really, really well. Generally all zoom lenses from Angenieux, and they have a bit of a way about them that gives you a slightly different feel than most other lenses do. And most lens companies do, do separate themselves from other companies that are making lenses, whether it comes down to the coating or to the feel of the lens itself, or the way that the lens just operates in general, the way that it perceives light and places it on your sensor. One of these intricacies I want to talk about is the coating of the lens. Now in this video you're going to see the Angenieux 30-72 f4 anamorphic, but also notice it doesn't have any coating on it. On the glass here, when I go to the front, there's no coating on the glass. It's clear glass. Now, what does this do and what does this allow for? Now, while this isn't necessarily the newest of new from Angenieux, we're going to get there. I wanted to take a second to talk about this because it does have a big push on your image. So what I noticed with this was when I took the camera and I panned up towards a light, I wasn't even having the light in frame. I wasn't really all that close to it, but I started noticing I'd get these little spheres all over my lens, all over my image. And in one in particular, even when I didn't have that light in the frame itself. So what this is telling me is that I'm not getting a hazing from this anamorphic, which is very different, right? Because we're used to seeing older lenses, maybe rehoused, or if we look at Kawas or if we look at Hawks, we're looking at glass that has really been treated with a specific coating to be able to make sure that it can give you this hazing feel, all those things that go along with anamorphic. When that light hits the sensor or hits the lens, you get this horizontal stripe going straight across. Didn't see any of that. What I saw with this lens in particular was these little globes, these little lights that were just moving about my image. So this is definitely something to keep in mind. Now for the newest addition to the anamorphic section of Angenieux, we have the 56-152 A2S. This lens was very cool. I mean, you got 56-152. So really, I mean, that's covering most of everything that you would need except for your wide. And Angenieux likes to, seems like anyway, they like to make their lenses in 2 stages. And with those 2 lenses, you can really cover most everything that you would need to on a short, on a feature, on whatever. Now, this lens did have the coating like most lenses do, but one thing that I noticed immediately about this was that the f-stop didn't go as low as I would have preferred. It stayed quite high. It was at an f4. So that being said, what does that do to the rest of my image? Well, usually we're relying on things like a shallow depth of field to be able to construct this image that we're looking for. But that's definitely something I don't want to say with lower end lenses, but I would say is an issue when you come to something like, what are we going to do past having a shallow depth of field to make the image look interesting? Now, this lens still gave me the ability to have a great looking image. It gave me the ability to have something that looked fantastic. Now, mind you, they had the AS2 set up on the Red Dragon, I believe it was, we were filming on, and that was obviously going to look great already from the get-go. But it gives you a layer of depth. Now, when I'm talking about depth, just like I was talking about with the Leica Thalia series and the M8 series, it's not exactly that we have this out of focus. It's that I can see that whatever is way behind my actor is very, very far away, if it's actually far away. So it gives me a great perspective of depth as far as what's really close to me and what's really far away from me. Now, you might not always want to have that. You might want to make you might want to make a very flat looking image, and that's okay. But we decide how we want our image to look based on 3 main things. The first thing being camera placement. Okay, so we place the camera where we want it to be, where we want to communicate this image and this feel from. The next thing is going to be our lens. What lens? Not just how wide do we want our lens to be, not where do we want our f-stop to be, not any of that stuff. We're looking at how is this lens going to communicate the emotion of the thing that is happening on screen. Now, if you're shooting a 5D Mark IV straight out of the box with a kit lens, you're going to have a narrower understanding of everything that lenses can do, because after you start working with other lenses, whether they be older Russian lenses or, new anamorphics or the CP2s or the Cook, whatever you end up working with, you start realizing very fast that the glass and everything that is allowing your sensor to be able to see what's in front of it is really an incredibly important part of your camera setup. And it definitely communicates a lot more than when you first start shooting. A lot of people like to think, oh, sensors and, the way my megapixels and, how do I have RAW or whatever. But really, if everything that you're seeing is coming through something and then it hits the thing that you care the most about, maybe you should take a little bit more time to spend thinking about, what about this thing in front of my sensor that actually allows me to see everything, and how is this affecting my image? It affects it in a really big way. And I did like the Angenieux, and it gave me this great depth effect. I wasn't able to go down to a 1.2. I wasn't able to go down to a 0.9 or anything like that, let alone even a 2.8. But I still had a great looking image with really good depth. So that's something that maybe I wouldn't use it on every single project I want to do, but there are times for sure, a lot of times, where I would love to be able to use this. Now, if you think that, well, an f4 is just not going to work out for me, I need that shallow depth of field, that's fine. But do keep in mind that there are plenty of filmmakers, those who have made The Great Wall, Star Trek Beyond, Child of 44. There's a lot of really great cinema that's being done with this. And I think a lot of times we use the shallow depth of field kind of as a crutch to make our images look a little bit more interesting. By the way, the third thing that we end up doing is the lighting. So the lighting itself, and I'm not even including camera operations in here, but the lighting itself is going to give you this extra depth effect as well. So if you take a lot of time to make sure that your lighting is set up the way you want it to be, then you're really going to be able to have a much better looking image, rather than doing sort of a run and gun type of thing and, saying to your gaffer, make it beautiful. Do more than that. Think about how this lighting is going to affect your image and how this lighting is going to affect the emotion of the scene that you're in. So that's definitely a really important part, but it's something that we want to make sure that we keep in mind those things. We keep in mind placement of the camera, the lens we're using, and the light that we're allowing the lens to be able to see the image through. So those are my talking points on the Optico Anamorphic A2S. I'm definitely a big fan of this lens. I really want to see this thing and be able to use this on a short. And I think it's going to be able to allow filmmakers to be able to start seeing a little bit more into, okay, how is my lens actually portraying what's happening in front of me? Rather than just saying, we need it to be 8K, we need it to be 6K, we need whatever, we need it to be RAW or whatever. So this lens, I think personally, is really going to be a massive asset and a big teaching tool as well for a lot of cinematographers.